and the Round Lake stage be taken down for Halloween. It's just too unsafe. We have so many people walking back and forth. And that's all I want to know. I don't need to go into detail. I'm just asking for it to be taken down at an appropriate time.
All right, I've been in touch with Chrissy to see if,
What was
I've
that?
been in touch with Chrissy to see if, because they do the haunted house and,
No, it has nothing to do with the haunted house.
well,
It has to
same tonight.
Yes, it is, but I do the front of the house and she does the back of the house. I do the Halloween contest. And just,
Okay, that was a question I had.
Okay.
Thank you.
Can I ask a question? When they installed,
Mr. Sheridan.
when they installed the stage, I went there and talked to the guy who's making it. And he said he'd be removing it. He's making it so he can take it away. I said, you're not gonna store it here. He said, no. I don't know what's going on.
I've been in touch with Brady and he asked me what we want to do with it. This morning, he asked me what we want to do with it. They left it up because they thought we might want to use it for Halloween, the Halloween contest. But they have no problem taking it down and storing it. So,
Okay, I just wanted to.
Mr. Finkel,
I don't want to beat a dead horse. What's going on with fire truck?
You sign over the registration of Jim or you?
Yeah, just that'll shut everybody up.
I've never seen.
I won't have to bother you.
at the moment, nothing. But I'll add it to the list of things. Okay. The latest is it has
Well, you're gonna sell it as is anyway, right? It's got a brake line, it's.
yeah, I've got to verify that and see if it's a big deal or a small deal. We just haven't got around to it. Anyone else? Alrighty, reports. I have the DPW report. They've been busy, with markets. They set up and tore down markets. That's a week-long project. They reestablished a ditch on North Road. Removed all debris from the ditch line and added, riprap, which is wax at the bottom to ensure the ditch won't wash out. Mowing, weed whacking the parks. Usual stuff. Picking up leaves and brush like weed. Remove the plow frame from the 2013 F-350. They're ordering a new plow frame so it can be replaced. They removed the dead ash tree from the old school hill, the labyrinth, had the stump ground and cleaned all the wood chips and added topsoil and seed. Replaced the curb box at 64 Village Circle North, which is one of the shut off valves that got crushed somehow, so it had to be replaced with detail digging down 8 feet. New project. Called in 5 loads of crusher run, which is gravel for upcoming projects, and yearly inspection of all DPW vehicles has been completed. And today and tomorrow we're having the Department of Health inspecting our water system and tower. There's been a change in the Department of Health, I guess, because Saratoga's grown. They are now taking over the duties that were previously. And who was that? Or at least face the camera, so yeah, provides some entertainment. That's my backup camera, in case the fails. Or I forget to record on this one. So Saratoga County is now handling their Department of Health questions instead of the laws. And next is the treasurer report. There are no. Greg, is that correct? There are no.
In all honesty, there was one that I found really late that was for $89. So can you?
And or repeat that second that turns up.
Try it again, Greg.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, there was one mistake for $89 that I found really late. I can make an adjustment to the report after the fact and I can just move the $89. But other than that, no, there wasn't anything. Did you want me to read the abstract?
So we can read the abstract. Mr. Bergen would, be heartbroken if he didn't read the abstract, so we'll let him do the wrong with it.
Sure. I've got it. Tradition.
Oh, sure it is.
I got it. Okay. You want to repeat that? Yeah. All right, make a resolution to approve the abstract in $351,097.67. We pay as follows: A fund, $328,043.76. F fund, $21,310.75. B fund, $1,743.16.
Do we second? Discussion?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. So, let's see. You move it.
Yeah.
Chief.
For in July, we had 61 alarms and brings the year-to-date total for July up to 342 calls, which is 28 ahead of where we were at this point last year. So the call volume continued its upward trajectory. So for July, we spent almost 700 staff hours for alarms, another 300 for drills and training. It's a year-to-date total for July of over 7,000 staff hours. Since the last board meeting, the new truck engine rescue 544 went into service 2 days after the last board meeting. It's already been on with several calls for us. That's working out. And then, you know, the last month we've had 3 of our newer members complete the firefighter 1 training, which is about 140 hours of classroom and study time. And we've also had 1 member, and Brian Ferdinand, who obtained his national firearms certification. It's not very common because of the effort it takes.
Okay, what happened down the lake here?
Because of the wind,
Yeah.
several folks ended up stranded on parts of the lake, parts of the
Oh,
shore. So it's the same thing as on Saratoga Lake, they had like 5 or 6 folks that ran into issues. So,
Thanks.
Thank you. Code enforcement.
I'm in the middle of the MS4 report, annual report. Not like have to do this because we have our own sewer and stormwater system. So we're an MS4 community, it's a bit of a pain. We had some drainage problems on Washington Avenue, which I think settled. We had 2 new homes or so, one on Lake and one on Saratoga, both the flippers. The car went into the trail at the end of Andrews Avenue. I think Bob checked on the house. I checked on the trailer wasn't damaged. Bob was checking on the occupant. That planning board approved the sale of 4 properties, Sweet and Galley and through it. The village plaque will get the village plaque as you enter the village through a contract with and get that cleaned up. We're still waiting on the engineer for some of the bid out the roof, the new roof of the building here. We have to put together bid documents to get that done. That's it.
Since the last meeting, I've had 13 sons. Had 1 trial. discovered the break-in at the telephone tower. And that's about it. Been a busy month.
Auditorium.
I'm here on the call. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we got it.
Great. We have wrapped up some of the Around the Lake music nights, some really nice nights at the auditorium, and the book sale was a great success. And then the big thing to note for this meeting is that Andover is coming for the week next week from Monday through Thursday to update the walkboards in the organ and tune the organ to prepare for the organ recitals in September. So I'll plan to meet up with them on Monday. And maybe we can have them swing by the office and make sure they have keys and know what they're up to. And then I did email and Susan responded about they requested an additional pair of hands to help carry in tools and some of the materials for the walkboards on Monday and Tuesday. And Susan mentioned that someone from the DPW could help. If we think that's the way we want to go, we can do it that way. I also could reach out to members of the village if we would like to throw it out for other individuals to help out.
I think it's totally appropriate to have a DPW. Out.
Yeah, I agree. And Susan had mentioned that would be a good way for some of the newer members of the DPW to get familiar with the space. So I think maybe on Monday when they stop into the office, we could talk to them about how, because they offered to pay $20 an hour. So I don't know if the village just wants to pay the DPW workers for that time, or if we want to have Andover help support that at all.
They could buy lunch.
Yeah, that's what Susan mentioned. So great. So we can follow up more with that via email.
Okay, that
That's it for me.
it. AP3 back to meter later.
Yes, you might make it later.
Work.
We are still collecting tax and water bills with penalties through the end of September. We had a young high school girl doing some community service for us, organizing our survey drawer and getting a spreadsheet so we can put together all the different surveys that we have through the village, which is really helpful. She is pretty much completed with that, and then we may keep her on a little bit as needed for other various organizing projects. Food pantry is, there's requests for, well, there's a big need for food pantries. We are looking to coordinate this particular round with the captains. And so we are taking donations until the end of the week, and which case I will be taking stuff there on Friday. Post office is asking us to remember to pick up your packages after 2 weeks, that it's a sort of mandatory thing for them to return packages that are lingering. So they thank you for your efforts. And
Susan, is that, that doesn't count if you like put a snap on your mail?
no,
Okay.
no, it's just, they just have, because they track packages.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden there's packages that are lingering. That's, they can't have that. So they said 2 weeks is the max on that. So try to get your packages up timely. Thank you.
Alrighty, under old business, the topic of long-term rental and the regulation of them. Tom, did you want to weigh in on that?
No.
No. Matt had made a few comments. A couple weeks ago. Suggesting additions to 91.7 and 91.7B and 97-2J. How would you take a look at those? Did that? Would you take a look at those changes that were suggested?
Well, I'm not sure what document we're working off of.
The one I emailed I sent you a few days ago. It had,
So 91-7, as it currently stands, says a certificate of occupancy or certificate of compliance shall be required for all structures, buildings, or portions thereof which are converted from one particular occupancy classification or subclassification to another. And what I propose is under our list of property classifications, if we have short-term rentals, bed and breakfasts, single home family homes, things like that, we add a definition for long-term rental, which would include a dwelling unit or furnished rooms that is rented to a tenants for a period of more than 30 consecutive nights. And the way I understand it is we added that definition there, that would bring into play 91-7, which basically would say if a home changes now from single family to a long-term rental, it would require a new certificate of occupancy. And then similarly with 91-7B, the code enforcement officer shall issue a certificate of occupancy or a certificate of compliance if the structure, building, or portion thereof that was converted from one use or occupancy classification to another complies with all applicable provisions of uniform codes. So my proposal was that if we add that definition of long-term rental, that therefore our existing code will allow for either to do an inspection when that use type classification changes from a single family home to a long-term.
And I thought that made a lot of sense.
what about the, for example, across from my house, nobody lives there. Flipper bought it. So does that count as owner occupied or is that?
Well, currently
Yes,
it's a vacant property, right? But if their intention is to sell it as a single family home, it would not be a change of occupancy. If their intention is to fix it up and then flip it into a long-term rental, then it would be a change of occupancy, which would then require either do a thorough inspection to make sure it's brought up to code.
So then.
those talks about getting a change from, not occupancy, but occupancy classification.
Yes. So
So it's going from residential use to residential use.
yes, but in our definitions, we have definitions for short-term rental, which is a change of classification. We have a definition for bed and breakfast, we have a definition. So I think if we add long-term rental as specific definition, it would apply to this. That's the way I read it. We have a list of definitions of occupancy classifications in another part of the code, which I can find.
So you're,
Which we do not currently have a definition for long-term
okay,
in our code. And I think if we add that definition, that will bring 91-7 into effect when a home does change from owner occupied to long-term rental.
well, the change to, from owner occupied to short-term or long-term rental would be a change of use,
Yes,
and therefore we would have an inspection.
correct.
Yeah, that's something that does make sense to me.
And I think it assuages the concerns of folks coming into the village buying their properties, therefore now we have a mechanism to enforce that.
The other one was, could be seen as unfair, the other.
Yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't get behind the whole inspection every 2 years, and that seems very intrusive to lots of people.
Yeah.
So this doesn't apply to the inspection does not, the certificate of occupation does not apply to selling the house. as an owner to another owner.
Correct, because that's not a change in classification, it's owner occupied to owner occupied. If you sell it owner occupied to short-term rental, requires an inspection. You change it from owner occupied to long-term rental, which we don't have currently have a definition for, but my proposal is we add that definition. Then it would require,
So. Maybe still safer for 10%. The letter. Or maybe the village safer for 10%. What is the?
You can apply that metric to just about anything.
Yeah, I'm talking about metrics, and what is this?
I think I would assume, what I think it is we have a lot of older buildings that are potentially being bought up and maybe minimal amounts of work done to it in order to turn it into a rental. And maybe that's,
Let me give you an example. The house across from me has had a kerosene leak in the basement. They had DEC hazmat trucks there for about a week trying to clean it out. It's had water leaks, literally multi-$1,000 water bills.
And it's been
It's a rupture. It's been vacant for
a year or more.
a year. Right, foundation is questionable, so I would like Peter to be able to inspect that before.
But we've done this before. I mean, what we used to call the Walsh property, which was the first house moved in. We shut that down a couple of times. We had a guy board up and condemned it, right? Peter? Yeah.
well, I think in that situation where there's clear external issues that have been brought to light, that we have within our code as well, the ability to do that, like if there's an immediate.
Okay, but here's my question.
Yeah.
Everything in your example, I get all that. That makes perfect sense, right? Except that if whoever's working on that house chooses to sell the house to somebody else to live in, then there is no inspection. It's only if they choose to rent it.
And the buyer chooses to have an inspection done.
Right,
The buyer doesn't.
So it's by.
and probably won't get it back.
A lot of these flippers use cash.
Right, but the buyer doesn't. But somebody.
The example is the house across from you, Gary, is a rental. They intend to make that a rental property. My concern is there's no parking. How many people are gonna live there? How many cars are they gonna have? Where are they gonna park? I don't know, you know. It's a whole different-
That's not something we could write. Can we make parking requirements for houses?
That's not something we could write.
Yeah.
Maybe for subdivisions, right?
Not subject to.
Yes.
All right, so that doesn't, but that's unfortunately correct.
Yeah,
Okay, so let's get that, well, we're gonna hold on that. Okay.
So, again, I thought the original proposal was, again, too broad scope and too intrusive, so it's my intent to try to come to some sort of, middle ground.
I have a question. That change of use, is that something that when you apply for a change of use? Who approves the change of use? Does that have to go to the zoning board or
I don't know, the question.
to one of the boards for approval?
zoning board.
If you want to change to a use that's not
Yeah.
permitted by our zoning code, you have to go to the CBA to get approval. Otherwise, if you're going from a legal use to a legal use, you do not need to. If we were to add this to chapter 91, that would be a change.
Yeah, well, like, for instance, right now, we have we have a specific process for short-term rentals, right? So if somebody sells a house to somebody who now wants to make it a short-term rental, they have to apply for a special use permit, correct? That's how it works, yeah.
That's correct.
But that satisfies kind of the change in use as it is right now for a special, but you don't want to have a special use permit for a long-term rental, but. I guess the question is how does the mechanism get reversed? I think, which is always a question with any of our laws, right? It's hard to enforce a lot of things that we put down, which is why, again, I thought the first version of it was very visual.
Way too complicated.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have to have an enforcement mechanism in case. What happens if somebody doesn't go with the policy, we'll say it is. somebody doesn't live with them, is there some fine we're levying against them if they don't do a change?
There's, I think there is in the code, let me just double check that. Yeah.
There are penalties for violation of the code.
Yeah.
Okay. What
And
happened?
our penalties are this big,
That is true.
but if it is a violation of the New York State Fire Safety and Building Code, they are this big, $1,000 a day, all sorts of absurd punitive penalties. Ours are not.
So who makes that determination? You would say that this you only review our regulations, or are you also responsible for ensuring that New York State regulations?
New York State regulates all of them.
They are. And it's a stack this high. What happens if you open a rental to a single use energy? Is that, does it require a work inspection?
It would yeah. Yeah.
And the inspection is free.
Fine of not more than $200 for each day the person is in violation. Again, it will all cost expenses of enforcement, et cetera. For example, the wall cap, it's court 3 times. But the difficulty is that if there's a violation inside the house, we don't know, we don't have a right to go in there. What launched us into court the 3rd time was the kids broke in. They built a fire inside a wooden crate on a wooden floor. Wall, Pines Home for God. Okay. It was a serious danger we got in there and we were able to get judicial relief. But what this proposed legislation for long-term rentals was intended to do is to find out whether there are safety-related violations. To give us the right to go in and see whether there are safety-related violations. We do that for short-term rental tenants. We don't do it for long-term rental tenants. And
We do it for
effort to
multi-family,
do that.
it's like a
Yeah.
1 night hall.
Yeah.
House on the way.
And again, I think some of the reasons, I think, as I expressed last time, there are differences as to why you would want to inspect a short-term rental. Because of the rapid turnover of customers and because, and one of the disadvantages, one of the issues that we have as communities across the country is that properties are being converted to short-term rentals and are taking rented stock out of the market. And my hesitation has always been to not exacerbate the affordability crisis that we have in this country, and I feel like adding unnecessarily regulations to long-term rentals would contribute towards what is already a cost of living crisis. And so I see the short-term versus long-term rental situation as being different. However, why I proposed the change was I am sympathetic to the fact that we want to make sure that we don't get a bunch of people coming in and putting the bare minimum into homes and then turning them into long-term rentals. So that was in my proposal was an attempt to sort of reach some sort of middle ground between those two competing concerns. A lot of people that are, I mean, I think what is it, half of the rentals in the village are by village residents, at least half. It's a lot. Don't remember the number. It's at least half.
There was a 60 and a 28.
Yeah, right.
I think a 28.
28 out of 60 are really residents, right? I mean, I'm happy to do nothing personally. I'm just trying to make a proposal that's a little bit of a middle ground that I think addresses some of the concerns of course.
Well, if we're gonna put it on the table for I definitely second it. I think it makes a lot of sense. If we're gonna go this route.
Yeah. We would have to have a public hearing and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
For changing the local law. Yeah.
Shall we table this till next meeting and just take a look at
On the condition that you sit down with me and we go through the draft that we started with. Because we have different viewpoints around the table and from Peter and. I'm not sure where we are now, so you can help me with that.
Well, sense of the board, and I would go along with that suggestion, that's, doesn't seem intrusive, I'd be quite happy with, but. The house across from me was being inspected, I looked in through the window, and it's kind of scary.
So we're willing to sit down with me and generate the next draft? Okay.
On that one thing, I think our conversation strayed more towards the inspections, but I thought the initial. Reason for even bringing this up was to try to get contact information for the owners of the property.
But we would need that in order to make an inspection, so.
Okay, is
Go
that,
hand in hand.
that's still gonna be? Yeah. Okay.
Good call.
I just wanted to make sure that wasn't being,
Yeah.
pulled away.
I do think there's an opportunity. I mean, I was surprised to hear that we have tax bills returned to us and all that kind of stuff, then that's a problem too. And totally aside from.
Well, I think they're being put into the trustee's name, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
You might have a child that's living out of town, you have an owner that lives in town, but the tax records through the county and through the town. End up going to the trustee who owns the house now, who lives out of town, when the person that's living here may or may not even be aware that it's being paid or not paid or not being paid, because they're out of the loop at that point.
Yeah, so that's a separate issue, I think. We need to address that with it.
It's good for them. Next was the committee structure. We had kind of circulated a draft committee structure that I had no problem with. That ring a bell?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, no issues.
No, not at all.
So
I actually think it's a great idea to have that structure set in place.
thank you, Eric, for pushing this. So the policy, we just adopted by resolution.
Yes.
Eric, you want to?
Any others?
Take ownership of it?
No, just
So, okay, I'll make a motion that we adopt the new, policy for the structure of the committees.
Sorry.
discussion. Thank you, the draft.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. All righty. Next, this is under new business, Victoria Landing HOA changes. I had several questions on it. So,
I have a question.
you had a translation.
I wanted the translation, but I think I got some. But, Mr. Peterson, just to clarify. This village board must approve any changes to the HOA.
Correct.
Okay.
This was approved by the
HOA.
already.
Yes. My first question is, what precipitated the change and what problems were being addressed?
There were a number of homeowners who were out of compliance by using HOA property and putting things on HOA property that they were not taking liability for, that the board would have been responsible, the association would have been responsible, for. So in order to get everybody back into compliance, we worked with our attorney to come up with a way whereby people will be issued a revocable license for whatever they have on HOA property. People did extensive plantings on HOA property. So this way, they take the liability for it should anything happen to anybody. Since the property is accessible to everybody that's in the development. If anybody gets hurt and they put something there, then they're responsible to take the liability for taking it off an association. 79 of the family shouldn't be responsible for something that one family decided to encroach on HOA.
Give us a couple of examples of what you're talking about.
Somebody extended a patio into the middle of, how this triplex houses. So someone extended a patio out into the middle between two triplexes. They had no right to do it. They said that a contractor gave them permission to do it. That's working there.
There is a 12-foot easement, though, right?
Yes,
Each
extending
homeowner
out
has a-
back, not, yes, for decks or patios only.
Is
But
that what you said?
Yes, but what happened was that the decks or patios were supposed to extend out the back of the homes, not to the side. And so what they did, you're supposed to come in 2 feet from each side to put your deck or patio in.
So you're talking about a middle unit or an end unit?
And this was an end unit that ended up.
And they went out 2 feet to the side rather than,
It went 10 feet out to the side.
to the side.
To the side.
Okay, so they built on the easement area as they were permitted to do, but then also extended onto
Yes,
area which was not within the easement. Don't you already have the right to tell them to remove it? You need a monkey with the bylaws to do that?
well, the problem was that that was sort of the beginning of what we found. That there were many other circumstances where people had put things onto HOA property that were never done. I mean, were never, supposed to be there. That could create a liability.
Like plants.
Well, like plantings,
Trees.
trees.
What
So the
kind of-
builder
what
gave
kind of
each-
what kind of planting would
Lots.
cause a liability?
No, well, actually, the issue is that the builder, the specs that we had in the surveys were all allowed approximately, it differs with each household, so there's 80 units on the property. We own about 5 feet of land, outside of our home, all around the whole perimeter of the land. So what people have done is they started moving in, they started encroaching and taking over larger swaths of the HOA property.
And when you say you own 5 feet, and there's an additional 12-foot or
That-
10-foot easement?
So in under 4.08, the only easement that the board and the builder were allowed to grant was a 12-foot easement off the back of the home for a deck or patio. That's the only thing that was allowed. And so the builder, and as people are moving in, they would see the foreman, they would say, hey, I'm gonna put a tree in here, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna expand that, and they just started taking over the whole property. And it's be like the village, if someone just moved in like these houses and then they just decided to take over 10 feet, of village property. And that has happened, I believe, with the village, people have planted on village property. So then what's
You're in the
happening?
Middle of neighbor's house.
Right, so it's not a problem, and the aesthetics have been beautiful, people have done a great job, but then we've had people move out. And then we have the new owner coming at us and saying, hey, there's these 3 massive bushes in the back of my house. I want them mulched, I want them pruned, I want them cut down, and we go back there and it was like nothing the builder ever put in. So we started looking, the art committee, the architectural review committee started looking and doing some inventories around the properties, and we found out that probably 75% of our homeowners have done some beautification project on HOA property.
And so therein lies my comment, which is your original point was the HOA shouldn't be penalized for the actions of one person, yet if almost everybody in the HOA has actually done something, the liability itself becomes communal at that point. Because basically everybody 75% here at that point would have done some form of beautification. And so you all bear.
Yeah,
the
but
one side or
but unapproved, so then we went back and looked at the documents and worked with our attorney, and we have no, the builder has no approval
to do it, the builder only had the approval to grant a deck or patio. And when they allowed people, saying, I'm gonna put trees in, I'm gonna put bushes in, we have no proof. Some people have some letters, but we don't have any documentation. The architectural review committee that's responsible for all modifications, all additions, all alterations on the property have no record of any, the majority of the stuff. The only thing they have is the 4.08, when homeowners went through the proper channels and put in an application, got a permit to put in a deck on the back of the property.
How does our code enforcement work for this situation? Like,
I mean, I have an issue too, there are fire lanes up there, so fire trucks can get behind or in between units and people have planted. I mean, you can't get a fire truck in there. I mean, the fire department has given up saying, I can't get behind any of the units because they got decks going right to a retaining wall. We can't get a truck back there, we can't get behind any of these houses. And they planted trees in the fire lanes. So it is a problem.
Wanted to point out that the under the amendments, you have any deck or patio constructed, blah, blah, blah. And any additional structures, plantings, landscaping, and hardscaping within the easement area. So we're not talking about HOA land outside of that easement area.
What is the easement?
But if they're going to extend the deck, or have like paving stones back there, that would be additional structures or hardscape. So right now they have the authority to do that. You're taking away that authority.
No, that's the new language that you just put in, right?
Right. But this new
Before it
language
was just a deck.
takes away easement rights from people who now have those easement rights. Because it's saying if you want to have additional structures or hardscape within the easement area, you have to get permission first.
Well, they were allowed, the easement area was for the structure of building a deck or patio. So I put a patio on and under the builder, and I put plantings around the patio. I had no authority to do that. I had no permission. But if I wanted my deck or patio structure to take up that whole area, that's okay.
Right.
So now we're allowing people, we don't want to take things away that people did. So we're just saying is here we are, we just took over this HOA 4 years ago. We want to allow people to continue to do what they did and grant them the licensing, saying, all right, we recognize that you put in that patio on the side of the house. We're not going to ask you to rip it up. And we're not going to ask you to pull up gardens. We're not going to ask you if somebody had a fence.
I'm not talking about plantings. I'm only talking about like extending the patio but within the easement area or deciding to have hardscape within the easement area. Right now, owners can do that without seeking permission from anyone. So long as they stay within the easement area. But you're saying if they going forward, they can't do that without permission.
Right, only a deck or patio within the 12-foot extension are permitted by the declaration.
Right.
No hardscape, nothing.
Well, is hardscape not a part of the patio? You have
Only
stones.
specifically a patio, so anything additional like structures or a fire pit. This is nothing like that could be added on. Just the flat patio. That's how it's written today. That's what before the amendment.
But now you have to get, I think what I'm saying is you were able to do that before, right? But now you have to get an explicit permission.
It wasn't approved. What we're saying is that we're going back and that there's nothing in the, so what we're talking about is the biggest issue that we're having right now is the properties are turning over to new owners.
Mhm.
And then there's no explanation. If you pull up your survey, or if we have the application for your deck or patio for that 4.08 easement, it's only for a deck or patio. It doesn't say you were able to put in 2 trees. It wasn't saying you were able to put in, more hardscaping, rocks and fences, and people are putting in, somebody put in like a wall, and it blocked the natural flow of the water, which we didn't know about.
Peter, what's a hardscape?
Neighbors.
Rock walls.
Pavers, rack walls.
Yeah.
Rock walls.
To me, it's like a berm, it's something that can stop a water flow, yeah, we don't like berms, and
Are paving bricks considered hardscape?
I think they would be,
Yes.
if they're flat on the ground, it's typically not a problem.
My dad is a mason, so I understand.
Yeah, well,
Hard
so
to-
in the landscaping sense, hardscape would be, that would be
Yeah.
things like patios, bricks.
Small
Little rock
walls,
walls, anything that is physically adding structure. That is not plants and bushes and shrubs and trees.
Okay.
They're softscape. Hardscape is the physical infrastructure, planters.
So within the easement, any additional structure would include extending a patio within the easement area.
And they would need to send, and they would have to get an application for that, not a licensing agreement, they would have to get in, they would have to file an application. Donna just did it, she had a deck, she wanted to extend it, you have to submit another application to the art committee. And again, they went out within the 12-foot easement. So you might not have done it from the get-go, but any alteration, modification that you do to the property out exterior, anything done to the exterior needs to go through the art committee. And none of these plantings, none of these tree plantings, nobody went through the art committee to ask, just to get it on the record.
So you got a brand new owner, and he or she wants to put in a patio in the easement. As it exists now, does that person have to go to the architectural committee?
For now, yes.
And people have done that.
Everybody has done it for a deck or patio.
Yes.
Everybody, well, that we.
Okay, so if I want to extend my patio, I'm not really bearing any burden greater than people have right now. That is, if you want to build within the easement, you have to go to the architectural committee.
Correct.
That's all he's doing for all these other projects, is just asking for permission.
Now, going to Peter's point about fire safety, though, I mean, this is. So there are clearly some things that do need to be.
I gave up on the fire because you can't get behind most of the units, especially on Cordelia, facing the northwest, again.
Because that is something I'm concerned about, because I think right now, it's, I don't wanna take away anything that anybody's done, agree. We wanna make this communal, or we don't wanna make this communal liability, we wanna make this personal liability, I don't know about that. But the fire safety thing is an issue, because how do we determine? Because right now, the way I understand it, you all, or not you all, but the architectural committee has the sole discretion to approve or disapprove of any kind of alterations, and I would like some sort of mechanism for that to
They recommend to the board, and the board has.
Okay, sorry, I'm not very familiar with the HIS.
But they are also, that's why we're getting this inventory, but if we do foresee something, like if someone has put a tree in it, it could eventually in 5 years encroach on the neighbor's yard or ruin their view. We have, at this point, we have rights to put conditions in place, like if this tree falls down, you can't put another 20-foot tree in that location.
Right.
So that's what the amendment is giving the architectural and the board the right to make up these conditions and rules.
Yeah.
So again, if somebody put a fence in, it's a full yard fence in HOA property, we have to decide if that fence falls down, are we gonna let them put that fence back up again?
Right, so I understand, so, but if somebody trips over a shrub, you want that person that put the shrub in to pay for that person snapping their ankle, okay? And you wanna make sure that the community looks pretty, okay? But from a safety perspective, what mechanism is there in place with this, even with this proposed law, to ensure that whatever is done meets safety codes? Maybe that there's a fire limit, like what, is there a member on the architectural committee that has any specialty in that? So that's, you know, it's very much seems like it's a small group of people making these decisions, so that's something that I'm concerned about personally.
So I have a question to piggyback off of you, is wouldn't, even if they go through the art committee and the HOA committee, wouldn't it then have to go through Peter and.
Yeah, that's what I'm
And
saying.
his,
You're right.
and our village building permit. Is the final thing, and Peter has final approval over any of those changes. Because it is within the village of Round Lake. And it is building upgrades, which in the village, we would all be required to get a building permit.
We had
such a-
documents for building permit from Woodland Bridge this morning.
Yeah.
Yeah, all the paperwork and everything. And Peter's first words, I can't do anything until I get a letter from the HOA approval.
Right. Well, what it seems like what happened, and I correct me if I'm wrong here. I mean, it seemed like this there was not a lot of oversight, right? There was a bunch of people that were doing stuff and there was no real mechanism, and it doesn't seem like the village was overly involved with that process. I'm just trying to understand how we got to this point for starters. But also too, if we are gonna make some adjustments to these things. Liability, like I said, I whatever, but it's more about safety for me, especially hearing that there are plantings and firings. In town, that's.
One of the questions related to that for this, which is. In the fire, to maintain the fire things, Peter said. We need help liable, the village need help liable, if somebody's house burns down and the fire department can't get to it. How is the liability? Pulls up.
Well, first of all, any person can sue any other person for any reason. So could we be sued? Yes. Would we be held liable because our trucks couldn't get back there? I think the chance is very, very small. I will say that I remember when the project was up for site plan review, and there was some pressure to put in an access road behind there. The developer said, no, there'd be enough room to get through there anyway. There really isn't, especially if people are building houses into that 12-foot easement. There isn't a way to get in there, but I think that the opportunity has come to fall.
Okay.
I would say that in the original builder's plan, and it's certainly imperfect. There are a number of homes where the shape of them and their position from the retaining walls is mine is less than 13 feet. So I'm sure a truck could get through there, but they would run through my patio and privacy wall and through the next door neighbor's, hers and her deck to do it. Even if she had maintained 2 feet from the wall, but she would have literally been not able to put a deck in. We had to allow a truck to go through there. So the original builder's design probably had some flaws in that sense, if that were in fact a requirement. So I don't know how to fix that now, because that whole corner behind Cordelia and that whole place where we are, I don't think you could put a truck through there.
No, I think the plan also was that they could get in between the units and just drive to the back and get in. And so and if somebody plants a tree, they don't need a building permit, they plant a tree, I have nothing.
Right.
Right.
So I understand that here. How does like the VA language on application to the art committee, the board may, in its sole and absolute discretion, grant an owner a revocable license? How does that interplay with the village's law? I mean, does the village have no say in whether somebody does something? Is the HOA solely responsible for any of those decisions?
If you're talking about a structure, then you have to get a building permit. Peter's involved. Peter's not exercising discretion. If something's been approved by the HOA, you can have that structure. Peter's job is to make sure that that structure abides by the zoning code and the state building code.
Right.
So the discretion lies with the HOA, not with Peter, but yet Peter is involved. When it comes to plantings and so forth, I don't think we have any order.
No, I don't know. I'm not concerned about that, but we do, but it says, in its sole and absolute discretion to install structures, landscaping, or plantings on associated property. I think the village has an interest in if a structure is placed, no? I mean, if a 14 by 14 foot shed is put on there, that's a structure, and wouldn't the village require? What if you guys change your bylaws and said, no, like you're allowed to get.
Just say that.
Yeah.
Jerry, put our deck in. I realize we've already had public discussion, but we've got a resident who I think lives in Victoria.
Can I put some up into this?
Can we hear him?
1 minute.
1 minute.
1 minute.
I was a former park committee member a couple of years ago. And the main reason for me leaving, because a lot of things were being done that didn't conform. And I was notified to the boards at that time. Also, a lot of areas where the fire trucks cannot get through is no fault of the HOA or Victoria Landing, it's Amador. Because he put a lot of distribution boxes right in the middle where the roadways were supposed to be for the fire trucks. So in either case, what you do in that area, fire truck is not gonna get through there. It's not possible when you got an electrical junction box and the other utilities in the way. They put them right damn smack where the roadways are supposed to be. So that's like, I mean, kind of, you know, and you know. It's easy enough to write a little name, to say, look, if there's trees blocking something. They gotta be removed or you're gonna be fined.
Are there any concerns from HOA members about fire safety or anything like that? Or is it? Is anybody concerned about it? Has anybody raised, of course, the concern around plantings and things?
I do want to say.
Real quick before we move on to that topic. Do you guys drive behind houses a lot?
And it's not paved from that drive.
Yeah. Private house.
There are things like the storage building on Route 9, down the side, they put underground pavers and then the grass on top, so we can drive down the side of that building, but unless that was done up here.
There are two trial lanes on gravel and then, you know, so they're hard surface in front of you. They're made for fire trucks.
Before all this discussion on what the fire trucks can and can't do, the fire department would never.
I realize that's. Jumping out of that, nobody's concerned about it, so my only concern there is just how the village interacts with this and making sure that we at least have some level of. If not oversight, then.
Well, this would be,
Transparency into.
this would be before Peter got the letter for the building permit, I assume.
But they might not get it, yeah, I guess, yeah.
That would be my assumption, the way we're, the Griffin Bridge example, I would say that.
Okay,
This would be their mechanism for giving.
so they get information rule, if it's a planting where we don't get involved, that's their discretion, if it's a structure or something that would require a permit. It still has to come. to Peter.
Yes, yeah, it goes through,
Okay.
through Peter, yes.
Okay,
That's still in our definition.
Yes.
You'll have to get a permit for those types.
But you also have a revocable license that you're offering, which means you would have to issue the license. And if you issue a license for a structure, who's to say, on the agricultural committee, who has the expertise to make a decision as to whether
That's
the
right.
plan falls within code, falls within safety, falls
So
within.
that's why I'm
It goes through Peter.
I feel a lot of the decks that are being built are designed by an architect who happens to live up there.
He's on the art committee.
So it's a revocable, now you say now, well. We don't like that. We can take the license away. And make you remove everything. How does that square with?
Well, those are the rules and regulations that the board's coming up with, and we've talked extensively with the attorney about that, but that's not our intent. Our intent is not to take something down, but if something is falling down like a deck, I'm sure Peter would get involved if, you know, we start having decks falling down and structures falling apart. Or we would.
I mean, it just seems like this can be punitive, political, anything. If you don't like the guy up the end of Cordelia and you get it, yeah, let's get him. Revoke his license.
That's abuse of
That's
power.
what it's about.
Well, then let's
We have to
take
share
it out.
responsibility.
Is, so your intent with that. It's actually grandfather, right? You're not saying, it's essentially, it's revocable in the sense that you are not grandfathering anybody's hardscaping or fence that if it is falling down or is taken down, you have to reapply sometime in the future.
Yes.
So to your point, the way it's written is kind of could be punitive, but that wasn't the intent. So you could mess with, you could straighten clean up the language there from the side.
Yeah, I think, there should also be some language just in regards to structures directly mentioning with village, like with village building permit or.
Yeah, and Peter knows that, I mean, he'll call us and say, oh, when people jump the gun and come down to get the building permit and he doesn't have our approval letter. And he'll email one of the board members saying, they came today, and then we notify them saying, you know, you need to complete your application, you need the $1 million liability policy, and then we will give you your approval letter, and then Peter gives them automatically gives them the.
I have a good relationship with the architectural committee.
Okay. What's that? Go ahead.
Let's assume for a second that I own a house a unit up there, and I bought it 3 years ago, and I put in a deck on within my easement. Didn't get any permission or anything, just put it up there. If this went into effect, what would happen?
Well, for the most part, as far as we know from the architectural committee, all of the decks or patios should have approval. So what the original, well, because what we've done is we went back to Amador. Amador gave us as much, because I was one of the first people there. I've been there from this day one practically. I had to get an application for my patio. And I had to fill out forms, I had to have insurance, they had to come and do an inspection. I have my whole packet of paperwork. And then the art committee, when they took over in 2020, right after Amador left, they started, you know, when they started putting decks and patios on, they came up with a process. When they were going to do inspections on properties, they came upon decks or patios that were not on a list that Amador had given us. And inquired, and they were like, I have Amador's approval, can you give us documentation supporting it? Well, now Amador's gone. We've done this for years, we call them up, do you have paperwork on that? Some, 99% yes, we might have, in my knowledge, there's one property that we don't believe that had Amador's approval or our approval. One.
Is that the one that goes out 10 feet to the
No,
side?
no, and then they just had papers down, and then last summer, under a different board. The art note was notified that there was a recognized contractor there. Putting in new papers on the HOA property. So upon investigation, went in, the patio was already there. It's beyond the 4.08 easement, which is behind the house, it's on the whole side of the house. And so we started going with the attorney on, what do we do? It's already in, if they didn't have approval, yes, we could ask them to pull it up. But then when we started looking at other properties, we found that other people had done similar things. So now it's like, do we ask everybody to tear up everything that's been put in the last 8 years? Or do we move forward with this amendment saying, they've done a nice job, we don't have a lot of money, we've kept our assessments way down. We have enough money for our reserve account, we have enough money to pay our bills. People have put in these lovely plantings and trees, they've been taking care of them on HOA property. Let's let them continue to do it, but at the end of the day, they don't own the property. So when you go to sell your house, you can't say I own all this property. Because you don't. You only own the 5 feet out. So now with the licensing, we're saying, here's the tree, but when someone else moves in new, you're going to have to disclose that to them, that they own that tree, they're gonna have to prune that tree, they're gonna have to mulch that tree. If that tree falls down, the liability is on that owner, not the homeowner. So this is what we're doing, is we're collecting this inventory of every item that's been put on that property after Amador left. And keeping an inventory and then allowing people to expand on that, but at least we have a record of it. But if somebody moves in and tries to put, something up, and well, that's what people do, they move in and they're like, well, he did it, so I'm putting rocks along my driveway, and I'm doing this, and this guy's parking on my side, and we're like, it's not your property, it's not, you don't own that land. So this is what we're trying to get on top of, and just get everybody knowledgeable about what they own, what they don't own. But give people the ability to enhance the property.
So. What would I be required to do when I sell my home there?
You're gonna disclose, you're gonna have a license, you're gonna disclose it to your seller, your buyer. Saying that, say, for example, I'll give you my house goes out 13 feet next to Lisa's to a wall. And there was supposed to be land up there that was supposed to be seeded, it was never done. We all know about the grade, wasn't the right grade, Peter and I discussed this many times. So we decided it was eroding down because of the sand, so we decided to put plants in at our own expense. I planted, I maintain it, I water it, I take care of it, it looks very nice. And so when I move though, I have to tell my seller and my buyer and say, listen, this is not your land, this is HOA land. And I have put plantings in, and you can, if you agree, as part of the sale, you will be taking over the maintenance of that property. You will maintain those plants. If you don't agree to that, then I have to remove them.
Or you're the wrong buyer for this house. Right, you should move on, and you should find a buyer who will take responsibility. Those are the options.
Because we don't want to have whatever's been done to beautify the HOA land have to be removed or not be maintained and have it look like a dump. Next to someone's house.
If the improvements are so nice, why wouldn't the HOA and the gardening committee or whatever take ownership of them and maintain them?
That hasn't been brought up at all.
Well, right now, we just had an election for the board. And we had 3 people apply for the position, and nobody else did. We had very difficult time getting
What position?
three board positions. People just were granted approval on the board because we didn't even have to do a vote because nobody stepped up to run for the board.
Yes, we're familiar with that.
Yeah. And but yes, and then the ground space, we're getting a lot of people asking for things like, I need a tree, but we don't have water. I mean, I've been running around for 8 years watering trees that nobody else would water. You know, we don't have a lot of people willing to, the retirees, people travel a lot, they don't want to.
Okay, but you do have a landscaping company up there that.
Yes, we do, but we don't have the proper irrigation to take over twice as much maintenance, which would be not only what was originally planned for, but every homeowner's additional installments. So that would dramatically increase the maintenance fees, and in some cases, it'd probably be inadequate to recover it. So the intention was not to bear the cost onto the association, but to ask the owner to just take responsibility for their actions, own the liability, own the maintenance, and make sure the next owner of your home understands the conditions. So you sell to the right buyer and that person takes it on.
Now, if I were to buy your house, your deed clearly states at the board's insistence that you understand that you live next to a fire department and that the Northway's there and the Northway's noisy.
Yes.
So why wouldn't this be in the deed instead of your bylaws?
Why don't we need to?
Good point.
It is in our declaration.
Because the deed would have to go back through the county clerk's office, so we did bring that up with the attorney years ago. You'd have to, because right now, we all have our surveys. So this is outside the survey limits. Any additional plantings right now are all outside the survey limits.
And it's individual to the owner, it's not all 80 owners taking that on.
But every deed has this. I mean, the deed that I would get for your house says that I live next to a firehouse and I live next to the Northway.
Because you're only getting a license to use association property, it is not actually associated, it's not tied to the deed in the property.
You're getting a license and a job, actually. You're getting 2 things. We're getting a responsibility. We're letting you maintain our property for us. Congratulations. Yeah.
But
the real estate agent.
So I have to work, I have the brown thumb on earth, by the way. I kill everything You know, if it's green, it's gonna go brown. I mean, if I bought a house out there and I'm terribly planting, it's like, I just wonder how that works. Like,
And we
there's a lot of people that love planting stuff. What
And we
about
do have
that?
people that aren't upgrading anywhere. They're very happy with the grasses that were put in by the builder and they haven't done any.
And no extra patios, we have about 30% of people, so even with the mulch, we're required to mulch the property, and they bring in, the landscaper, we pay him an X number of dollars to bring in mulch. Well, what they've been doing over the last couple of years is they do everything in the first view, so we had 3 buildings that didn't get any mulch this year because they mulched people's properties that had enhanced their land. So are we supposed to be paying, yes, it looks beautiful and it does make the whole property look nice, so maybe that's something we can consider down the road, is like we'll buy extra mulch to help people out with their enhancements, but there again, at the end of the day, we came up short, 9 houses didn't get mulch because they mulched individual purple people's trees, private trees. And people want more, you know, we pay them up for our irrigation, and then once we start adding, you know, we try to do being, you know, no good deed goes unpunished, we try to do little tasks to like put more little grass on certain people's areas, but then other people said, well, you did it for them, now I want it, now I want more irrigation. And we're looking at tripling, you know, quadrupling our costs to maintain the property, and, you know, it's doable, but we keep telling people, it's like, well, what are you willing to pay? We can do anything, they want, we can put as much on as they want. But the landscaper mows, weed whacks, and they edge, they don't water plants, they don't, you know, they'll do 1 pruning a year. And then again, but now we're doubling and tripling our pruning costs because people have put trees and bushes on that the landscapers, someone needs to prune them.
Going forward, is there any mechanism, if I want to put a shrub over here? Is there a mechanism to go through the garden committee,
Yes.
so
Yeah.
that's in place now, like the architectural committee?
Yes. Make sure it's not invasive species, that the trees not gonna get to 20, 30 feet. Yes.
And how long has that been in effect? A year?
Oh, well, we don't have that plan yet. We have preparations, but we need approval to actually action the plan. So the revocable license documentation is being readied. And then once we do that, we'll do a one-time inventory to start the process and level set. And then future people will go through the application process and request a license and go through review. So it's all to be done upon approval.
Can I ask a question? How many rentals are up there?
Two.
Just 2, do they have decks?
I think one has a pad.
87.
Patios?
One or two. Well, I think one has a patio and one has.
That's interesting.
What's the attorney's sense on this as it relates to the village board?
I've had my question answered. I don't see anything in here that negatively impacts the village as a whole. And the impacts on the residents up there appear to be rational and, to my sense, adequate.
I mean, they voted for it, so they're, as a community, they've decided that it's okay with them. My concern, is there anything in here that cedes any authority of the village to the HOA? Is there anything in here that, like you said, concerns the village as a whole, that legislatively reduces our authority to enforce?
No.
Okay.
From a legal perspective, I have no objection
Okay.
to the changes that have been made. In terms of the policy, that's up to the board.
Okay.
I had a question about 408C. At any time, the board shall have the power to adopt rules and regulations and prescribe the form terms, blah, 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 to be accepted and signed by the owner, and the board may at any time rescind, modify, or amend such rules and regulations in the form of such license agreements from time to time. Now, There have been some neighbor squabbles on Victoria Land either. I listened to, over the last couple of years. I'm a little concerned that there's not wording that says with good cause, modifying rescind or.
And we did put that in the language to begin with, and the attorney took it out. Because they thought, again, no good deed goes unpunished. Well, and again, we're hoping that nothing's going to change, but they thought if something happened with flooding up there. And somebody, put in a berm or something, hopefully we know about, that's why we're trying to get on top of this. I think what's happened is over the 8.5 years, we've just been neighbors where we have a board, but nobody has really encroached on other people's yards. We haven't been walking behind people's homes. We're not doing these inventories. We only went on site when we got permission to look at our committee to put in a deck or patio. So it was kind of, my eyes were open. Lisa went a couple weeks ago of it's beautiful what's happened, but we had no inclination of a lot of this stuff is happening. So we just want to make sure, and again, Peter's concerned about, the runoff, we do have issues with runoff.
Right.
And
but all those, that would be good cause, so I
That's
don't
right. That's the
understand,
intent.
I don't understand
he
why.
didn't like that, he just thought that.
I think, I like it too, and I think that it gives this revocable license, gives this our agricultural committee, architectural, way too much discretion. And to go just a little further in the redlining here, you can approve someone's proposal to build a structure or plantings, and then later on, you can, without reason, remove reject the license, say it's no longer valid, and the homeowner would then have to use his own money to tear down the thing you gave him permission to build.
So I have a question for Richard. Is there a reason you wouldn't use the words good cause? Is there a reason, like a legal reason? Is that like we're voting for some reason?
There is no reason not to add for good cause.
But we also don't define good cause.
Right.
Yes.
If you want to be a bad actor and call it a good cause, you can do that. So.
There are reasons why, I mean, I was looking at 12.04 reasons for contested plans, and stipulates reasons why plans could be disapproved. I don't know how that tie in, it doesn't tie into what we're talking about, but it's interesting that there are specified reasons for this section, but it's the sole discretion. And is there any appeal mechanism for this? Like, I mean,
Yes.
almost,
okay, but what's the appeal? Who do you appeal to? But
We had this problem with this one property, I said, that extended out to the side, so they were entitled, we sent them a letter explaining our concern. We had a hearing that they came to. We discussed it with them, we heard their side, we gave them our side. After talking with them, they understood why we had our concerns. And they agreed to, at that point, we didn't have the license in place yet. This is sort of what started this whole process. And so we told them that we would give them a license to keep the patio that way with and then they would have to rip it up if the board at any time decided that because if there was a flooding issue or something like that, that they would have to remove it.
but the appeal goes, and the appeal is to the same folks that made the disapproval. Is that accurate or not? If the board declines the plan and somebody wants to make an appeal, they go before the same group of people.
Yes.
Okay, that's.
well, it's kind
Do you think
Well, no, because that's not accurate, because when the zoning, if Peter makes a decision, Peter has authority to make decisions as a code enforcement officer. A lot of times if somebody doesn't agree with Peter's decision, there's a mechanism to appeal it to a certain different group of people, which is the village board. Same with other decisions on the planning board. there are different groups of people that are involved. It's not judge, jury, and executioner.
Let me follow up with that by asking, do you think that there would be an objection on the part of the HOA board to specify the appeals process, which is appeal the decisions of the architectural committee will go to the full HOA board on notice to interested parties? And the other thing would be that that there's sole unreviewable discretion in terms of granting the licenses. But if you're going to require a structure already approved to be taken down, that could only be done for good cause. And then if the architectural committee says we got good cause to tear up this patio, that person then go to the HOA board and would have to articulate that. Does that sound offensive to you?
I mean, we're willing to do anything to.
Okay.
There needs to be some-
Usually attorneys want to.
Joseph Walsh, of Walsh and Shorts up in Saratoga.
Sorry,
Joseph Walsh.
Joe Walsh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that my biggest concern about it is that there is a concentration of power, and that if you're going to have that concentration of power, there needs to be a good appeals process for it, or.
Are you guys willing to do
Like
that?
to be our.
I mean, there's gonna be always, not necessarily.
As full as you are.
Yeah, but,
If Joe
yeah,
decided you wanted to do that, make those two changes, Joe Walsh could contact me and I could explain, what it is that we're looking for, which is a rational appeals method, and the fact that approved structures can't be taken down simply on sole discretion, but there would have to be basically a reason you can articulate, and one that if it's taken from the committee up to the full HOA board, have to persuade the HOA board.
I think that's fine with me, yeah. Other than that, I'm okay with the rest, because they voted for it, they're okay with it, there's no impact on the village in terms of our authority. I just want to make sure that folks, that that is the main concern, is that there's constant, I'm concerned about that, by the way, with any board, and that's why when we talked about the original proposed long-term rental, I said we have to have some sort of appeals process in place for if Peter decides hey, I just don't like you, no offense, Peter, it could be somebody in the future. That we have to always have a mechanism for a check and a balance, and that would, if we have that, then you can work with the attorney.
Okay.
And with our attorney too, I mean, we would have to go to our attorney and he could push us back, saying that's not good cause. You know what I'm saying, is that what we're up against that too, is that our attorney, we have to go through our attorney before we can impose that condition.
And I wouldn't be talking to your attorney attempting to persuade him.
No,
It
but
was
I'm saying part of our
simply
process
to
would be,
make clear,
yeah,
using commonly understood legal nomenclature, what it is that we're worried about protecting.
yeah, but he would definitely give us the same consultation that you give your board, is if we came to him just say, well, and he's gonna say, why are you recommending this? And we can say, I don't really have a reason other than, I just want it to happen. I don't think he would let us do that either. So we do have that separate counsel.
Okay.
But this is a check and balance in and of itself, right? You guys pass the law, now it comes to us, now we review it and make sure that it's appropriate, like that's how it works, and we're making recommendations as to what we think should be in there, in order to get our rubber stamp, right? That's the process.
Yeah.
Sausage making at its finest.
So if the conversation with you and the lawyer happens, would we then bring the back revised language to you, who's going through another vote? Like, we don't.
So it's not gonna be involved. Well, it's not.
They would-
As far as the issue.
Oh, it's not the issue, but.
I don't know. You have to check with your attorney.
Yeah.
One more thing on 408C. Licenses granted by the board may be not exclusive, such that the other owners and members may have the right to cross or traverse the licensed area. So this is my deck. And that's my neighbor, and we don't get along. I'm having a picnic out there, he can just walk back and forth and be annoying.
No, because in the easement area, it's exclusive easement.
But this says,
It would be if you wanted to plant beyond your easement, you can't tell other residents they can't walk there.
Four point eight is exclusive.
Right, the decks slash patios are treated differently than all the other items.
But they're not covered by the license.
I'm sorry, you didn't catch all that?
The decks and patios are treated differently than other potential hardscaping and plantings. Because there are there's a very specific 12-foot easement for patios slash decks. And then anything beyond that has to have the permission. Blah, blah, blah.
So in the example, the one that protrudes out to the side, Matt could walk on that as much as he wanted because that would be covered by the license. This seems a little odd.
Well, I mean, that particular person broke the rules. And the HOA is trying to make a deal to not make them tear the whole thing up.
Yeah.
If they really wanted to play hardcore, they'd be like, all right, well, you broke the rules, rip it up. So people can walk back and forth.
It's kind of like I had a paper street run. Right? It's,
Right.
it's village property, it's my yard, but it's also a paper street, and people walk through it. And I say, hi, neighbor.
So essentially, we're tabling this for possible amendment, resubmission.
Okay. Moving on to the discussion with the NYSEG on the streetlight shield. On August 11th, I had a discussion with Marilyn, somebody from NYSEG. She mentioned that shields are available at a cost between $350 and $500 per light. She questioned whether they would help as LED lights are designed to have minimal side spills. The village of Granville has some installed, and I heard back from their mayor on where they are, so if anybody's inclined to take a field trip, let me know, and Granville's about an hour from here. We can go see them in action, Matt and I did before we got the LED lights, we went to, where the hell was it?
Half moon, there's still, there's like 3 places, yeah.
So we went and checked them out to see if they'd be appropriate. So, there are a number of possibilities. The items below should be done prior to checking, could be done prior to checking out the Granville lights. Turn off one or both basketball court lights, turn off one and shield the other. We cannot put a timer on the basketball court lights for
Or any lights.
or any lights for NYSEG. Items below should wait until we check the effectiveness of the shields and evaluate the effectiveness. One, shield all lights at a cost of approximately $40,000. Allow residents to pay for shield or treat street lights bother them. Pay for requests and install X number of shields per year at village expense based on some sort of rational basis, or failing that, a ladder system.
Could we put in one shield and see what it does?
I had suggested to Gary, and the basketball courts, there are 2 lights there, it is quite bright, and one of the poles is not perpendicular to the ground, so I do think there is intrusion, and so I think that's a worthwhile investment of $500 to $1,000 or whatever it's gonna be to shield one of those lights and see how it works.
Only if we could turn
Yeah.
one off.
Yeah, and that's it, if we go back to the pre LED days, actually, that was actually, only one of those lights was lit at that time. The other one was shot out with the, so,
So I do have a question on the basketball court, but
yes.
was to put up there specifically to light up basketball courts in the evening hours for people.
I would imagine that goes back.
Way before.
Decades.
Before your time.
So those lights were just something that was.
And to be honest, that's one reason I moved here back when my niece still lighted basketball court.
Yeah.
Because what my recommendation would be is possibly get away from the NYSEG LED lights. And to put in our own controllable
Yes.
overhead light. We do have a power source that.
At the basketball court?
At the basketball court, we have a power source over, on the trail. There is a meter there, there's a panel. And it wouldn't be all too expensive to trench a line over and put in, a tower, a light pole. That we can put on the timer and it could go off at 10 o'clock.
You want to cost it out?
What?
And you want to cost it out?
I can, yeah, if you, if I have permission, I'll go to my company at Stilson Electric and I'll get them to come up with a proposal.
There's also solar floodlights, there's an option, but I think electric is better.
The solar ones aren't controllable.
Oh, okay.
They're dusk to dawn, usually. So in order to turn it off at a specified time, it would need to be on a time clock.
Yeah, Gary and I will talk about this as one of the suggestions.
So if you're gonna do that, I prefer the board pass a resolution authorizing that because, you know, getting your employer business may not directly benefit you, but it may indirectly benefit you.
It would be.
So I'd like to cover your
Yes.
self by having a board resolution if the board wants that to happen.
I'll make a resolution that we price out the cost of the village on floodlight at the festival.
Second.
Including with his employer.
And
Still single.
yes, we'll still.
I moved to other cases, but.
I'm not gonna do
Good discussion. Good idea.
Good idea, yes.
I am staying because I can.
It's fine.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, you're finding, you're getting this.
Right.
I mean,
We're being
I actually, one of the ideas I had going back and forth with this was we do that, and I had a feeling that it might actually be not as costly as the shield or not too much more.
It's gonna be more than the shield.
Two shields,
Okay, it's probably still gonna be more than 2 shields,
yeah.
but in the long run, it gives us the ability to control the light,
Yeah.
which is, I think, gonna do several things. If we're able to turn that light off, we can then, nobody's gonna be on the basketball court once the light is turned off, because it's gonna be dark.
And if they are, we won't be able to see them.
The only thing that we do have to look into is, with that roadway, is one of those 2 basketball lights specifically there to light up the
They're
road.
both facing the court, I'll have to double check.
They are efficient.
That's not.
Well, but are either of them required for safety of
Yeah.
the
I
roadway?
don't think so, but here's the other
The
point.
pedestrians in the road.
Eric, you bring up a good point there, which is, I think, one of the problems, so LEDs are designed to be directional, they're designed to fire straight down, which is why Marilyn said that shielding doesn't necessarily have a huge impact on LEDs, because they're already directional by their nature. The problem is a lot of the poles are not, they're lean, or the Cobra head is not installed correctly, so I think one of the things we could do is maybe talk to NYSEG about, take a look at some of these really bad fences. There are poles that are like this, and I don't know.
Most of our poles were replaced.
I know, but the basketball court one is bad, it's bad. There are others where the pole is straight, but the Cobra head is not perpendicular or parallel to the ground, so.
And maybe this is a different topic, but we also have some that are literally on the paper streets that are no longer streets.
Yeah.
I mean, there's the one.
First Street.
Okay,
Max's house has a street light.
There's one there, there's one over at Union House, it's literally in the trees and shines directly into a window. Like, there's some really weird ones that I don't understand why we.
Yeah, okay.
And I don't know, I think it was a NYSEG thing, but like that could also be people's frustration with our street lights is the ones that are really strange.
We can make requests to have those, I have a map of all the locations on current drivers. So folks that have issued their concerns about the basketball court, we'll reach out to them.
Okay, so we talked about basketball court, which told us, and we actually started about shields and whether people wanted them. Should we just create a list and depending on the demand, we can decide if we're going to.
Yeah, one thing we can't do, in my opinion, is replace and put shields on everything when you get a significant number of them, because it's significant expense.
Right, so it seems like we ought to at least start with a list, find out what the need of what this is, because if there's only like 3 vendors, that's totally different than.
I think we should let whoever is complaining about the particular light. Pay for the shield if they want the shield, only due to the fact that. 3 people first come to us first and we put up 3 shields. There's likely to be another 200-300 following suit after those shields are installed. And then we're gonna be.
I know one person that has already offered to pay for a shield, so I'll reach out to that person.
Is that legal, Tom?
Yes.
It's a great answer, yes. That's Jeopardy,
Yeah, there is.
We'll go create a revocable license for the street light for that person.
If we don't like it,
They sell that out. The noise will take that shield away.
Street light charity, Worlds was started literally as a street light organization, so there you go.
That's right.
They can pay.
So if anybody wants a shield, go see where.
All right.
Oh, thank you. Setting a date for the. Discussion for Carpe Diem. I would suggest November 5th, I'll be on October. My daughter's due the first week of October, so.
I get that, I would also plan on October, that was the day after the election.
November.
And, well, it's the day after the election. That would the same people were sitting here today, and they not sitting.
Oh, really? Such is life. Ooh, well.
Are they through December 1st? How does that work? I was forgetting. The election, isn't it through December 1st?
Oh, that is
Yeah,
right.
yeah, I believe it's through December 1st.
Are we actually talking about, are we talking about specifically Carpe Diem, or are we talking about auditorium?
Well, Carpe Diem / auditorium workshop meeting for November 5th.
So we have a committee right now, right at the auditorium, so we're getting confused.
Skipping September?
Yeah, that's what I was just gonna go back to, is there a reason why we cannot do September, is just not enough time for September 3rd?
3 weeks. 2 weeks from now.
2 weeks.
Well, what are we doing?
yeah, yes.
I mean, we could probably do lunch.
The area is.
Right.
Best to just-
So. What I would suggest potentially is, I know we have a methodology, I would say, for how we do our workshops, which is we let everybody say what they want to say and then we ignore them while we talk. But maybe we could actually have something closer to an actual workshop where we work through key areas and maybe have like a facilitated conversation rather than that, and not necessarily so much come up with the. See where people are on this during that conversation, and then we can make up some suggestions how we want to move forward with that. Does that make sense?
I'm perfectly okay with that. Is there a reason why we cannot use September 3rd?
I would be willing to do the facilitation, I've done that in my life, and I haven't do what they did on the.
No. September 3rd. Yeah.
Well,
Sorry, I couldn't say on.
I would be willing to do this.
Okay.
September 30th.
Yeah, because yeah. No reason to look it off. People months, I think we can have, I think we all kind of know what to do. You're gonna be around that right area?
Yeah.
I'll make a motion to, oh, we don't need motions, just the village workshop meeting, it's under the public hearing. Good.
In the meantime, send any items for discussion or concerns to Eric and.
Yeah, I think we probably need it, like, email out, so and see, ask people what they want. Where people want to say A is happening, B, maybe by actually sort of thoughts on how we want to organize the discussion, let's get feedback and then.
So I'm gonna say,
Do we need my card?
Quick questions for.
might be
I
worth
know,
it.
but it's right there. We can have them, and what I say, you've got that one.
I think if they were able to attend a workshop, there is a lot of things that they'll be able to get answers about and be able to get more of an insight on the way the village works and things that are allowed to be done in the process of everything.
Just gotta make sure that it's not, well, you know.
Right.
That they're not, that they don't become the target.
No, they know that, this is coming.
It's gotta be respectful,
They're
facility.
right, they're certainly willing to.
And I think that's why, I think it would be blessing, but absolutely need to keep both possible. That's why I think it's important to get some like structure to this beforehand, the village and, or maybe say, hey, this is kind of the general topic areas we want to talk about. Yeah, that way we have to go. Keep us going. That's the whole.
Good.
Although it's essentially a meeting to talk about the relationship. Because of the open meetings law, we have to call it a workshop and make it available to the public. Even if you have property in the village, we're all sitting around one table together, exchanging ideas, it needs to be open to the public.
Yeah, yeah. Actually, if we could, rather than sitting there all day, create a circular thing, get a conversation.
Like a love fest or beer.
Alrighty, I
am
will.
not doing the trust fall.
That's what I know.
And we have a report from.
From AP3, if I can, AP43, so, a few things. I know that David already touched on the walking boards for the Andover. They're gonna be coming and putting those in, and then, when that's finished, AP3 will cut another check for 5,000, should be done, so that was, just to let everybody know, that was totally funded by AP3, that was $10,000, so that's, that hopefully that'll be done, that'll be one thing out of the way.
Thank you.
As far as the fundraiser goes, last year we had a chicken barbecue. Chicken barbecue part is not going to happen this year, unfortunately. Fortunately, we still are doing the event. Of course, we need to know if it's okay to use the field at the time. The date is September 20th, that's the set date. That'll be down at the Ball Diamond. We are still gonna do the Rhythms of Round Lake, so we'll still have the tent set up with music and I would like to have that. September 20th, and I'm going to say 4 o'clock. We have a couple of other things that we had some things that the kids can play with in the field area. I think this year we're talking about doing the cornhole tournament. That was tried all, but it didn't work out so well. I actually talked to the person that was trying to coordinate that, and I'm going to try to get involved for her to come in and try it again down at the ball diamond, maybe have a little tournament kind of thing going on. I have talked to a food vendor. He has a Saratoga County Health permit. I checked that first, make sure to come down on the ball diamond. That's something that I would need your approval for also. I have probably 2 food trucks down there, so we can offer food. During the arts markets, we had the pie booth where Smith Pies actually were the ones who supplied the pies. I talked to Leah. We're going to do like a pie booth also. Leah's going to be the day for that. She can put out probably like a $3 slice thing. That'll be part of our small fundraiser. On top of that, we'll have a small raffle also. So it's not going to be a huge fundraiser, but somehow, AP3 will be involved in
So that should be, we should be advertising for that soon. One. Oh, yes, so I would also need, is last year we'll need tables and chairs and tents put down.
One or
Set up in
two,
the same area.
1 or 2 minutes.
Do we have both? Sounds like. Probably both, but we served 165 chicken dinners last year, so I don't know, it's probably good to have coverage. I don't know.
Well, then it's sunny and hot.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's probably a good idea to have coverage, if we can do that, it'd be great. It probably would be a good idea to have both tents. Yeah, and if it rains, but. As far as that. Yeah, so, yeah, a little bit more information, but I'd like to start kind of getting the word out there for the 20th. Also, we are working on, we should have something to bring to the board as far as the design for a placard. Where the museum used to be the old school with labyrinth is right now, we have a 2 by 3 foot, kind of like the informational placard that we kind of wanted to bring to the board. I don't know if I brought that idea before or not.
The labyrinth or for the George West Museum?
Where the George West Museum is, the walkway that goes down, we were thinking about asking the village if we could put in a placard there with information on the George West at the school. Have a little thing on the mummy. We do have something almost sort of drawn up so we can show it to you at the next meeting. I'll bring that up. And yes, so now they're walking for so much. Now,
I'm glad you're here, Scott.
yeah. Hi, I'm Scott Rigney. I'm the historian for Round Lake. So this is my story. If I could give a little input of the story. Tomorrow we have 27 people coming in from Colony seniors. I'll be doing a walking tour. We're gonna have a little luncheon. We're gonna have a bag out here tomorrow. The 6th of September. I've, in conjunction with the Schenectady Historical Society. He did all the advertising and advertised a walking tour here in Round Lake. I put a cap on 30 and sold out. So we're gonna be doing a 10 o'clock show, a 10 o'clock tour, and we added a 2 o'clock tour on the same day. So that's on September the 6th, that's a Saturday. Open to village residents, if you want to go on their website, search the Schenectady County Historical Society. It's $15 a head. 100% of the proceeds of tomorrow's store will go to the village. That's another question I have also. When I go into the village to see Greg, I don't know if there's a line item under this. I know there's not one under historian. Just in case nobody's in the office, I know Greg asks me, where do I put this money?
Charitable. The charitable. Gift fund, right?
For the auditorium, yeah.
That the,
Or the claim donations goes to.
we have a general charitable.
I think we have-
It's not specified for, we set that up a few years ago when that gentleman passed away.
You know, I just.
It goes to the auditorium or AB3.
This is for.
Right, I know, but I think that's the way.
This goes to the village, because this is under,
Oh, this is village,
yes,
not
there's
the
the county to village historian.
Gotcha.
We're not promoting any of that.
There's a charitable gift fund, that would be the most appropriate line.
So that, we'll have the proceeds for the Schenectady will go to the village. And we have one more tour also from the Hudson Valley Walkers that'll come in and now go to the village also. Proceeds on that. And I think that's it.
Okay, thank you. Correspondence. Right, approval of the minutes.
The good minutes to approve, and send them out to people that advise the communities.
Here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Move to approve.
Second.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. Yes. Mr. Village Attorney.
They're authorized to hire a labor group for the highway department. And the custom has been that, well, the employee is an employee of the village. I'm seeking a resolution ratifying that appointment.
Does the resolution have to name the person or just resolve that we are?
Is it John Stevenson III?
Second.
The second.
I mean, I like the resolution, I just didn't know who we mentioned names, just give you the approval. I thought you had approval.
We didn't have board approval,
Oh,
so I'd like to ratify that.
I'd like to make the resolution. Second.
Discussion.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Yes. Yes.
And also I would like a 4-minute executive session on the acquisition of property. That is, there's been, a inquiry made regarding the village purchasing the property at between the north end of New York, Avenue and Morris Road. So I'd like to discuss that in executive session.
Still my life. You said it, that's all I need.
4 minutes?
All right, village mayor, I got nothing. Trustees?
I have one thing, with the new resolution that we passed on the committees. Is the buildings committee still in effect, and is it an ad hoc committee, or is it a? Whatever the other term is. Standing is.
Like, comment on that, to your question, which is, I think we need to really define what she's. Because I think our committees are a little clearer. So we're gonna spend some time, because we've got 4 committees in action right now. Which. The tree committee, the park committee, the buildings, the historic committee.
I think,
It's great.
no,
No, say historic, we have a historic buildings.
Oh, okay. Buildings.
Yeah, buildings. And anyway, they cross over, they don't cross over, we should define exactly what the terms. But, and we tell.
That would be, well, that would be a kind of function.
No, sorry, I would argue, we're gonna see that the committee, tell the committee what we want that.
It was
What they
laid,
want to advise us on, because that's the.
Yeah.
it was laid out as the village board directs the committee as to what their preview is and what their parameters are for said committee. And then the committee works within those parameters.
Right, because some sort of, we talk about the authority, but this is a historic building too, and we talk about it, so, like, it's something for you.
And moving forward, one thing that I keep going back and forth with is, I think the 3 committees that are mentioned right now, for the, would be good committees to have standing committees, because there is a lot of moving pieces in the village, and there's a lot of parks that we could make better, we could make improvements, and having a committee to manage those and help with board decisions would be beneficial for all. Same thing with building improvements, and we could, like, building improvements could work with Peter and maybe make his job a little less burdensome when it comes to the large projects. I know they're not easy to manage, and there's a lot of people that you have to talk to, and engineers and all sorts of fun stuff.
So someone needs to sit down and nail that exactly, because we want that to be licensed.
Yeah, I would, I mean, parks especially, I mean, we have the park plan fund, which has hundreds of thousands of dollars, and it's not that committee that specifically makes recommendations on how we ought to spend that money. I think that should be an absolute priority.
That's parks and trees, right? That's.
Well, no,
And that's the problem.
That's the problem, we don't want the tax.
we don't know what the difference between parks and trees is.
Yeah.
It
Sort of, it's sort of that.
trees is kind of like the soft scape, and parks would be the hard scape.
Yeah, right, exactly. So that's why we needed. Yeah, okay.
So. What is the difference between a standing and an ad hoc? I know ad hoc means for this.
Ad hoc means for a particular
purpose.
issue or event. And once that recommendation is put in writing and is handed to the board of trustees, the committee automatically, goes away.
One way to think about that is treat them, they can consider an ad hoc committee, because they have this grant rate of $80,000, and once they're done with that 5-year, $40,000 committee, money, they can go away, in theory.
I don't-
It could be considered.
I don't think the jury committee considers that it's limited to the expenditure of those funds.
I'm saying, if we defined it that way, they would ad hoc.
The best example I think is like the water, right? We had water, we had an issue with the water.
Well, we had parking committees, we had, you know.
Everything snowed in a little.
Really shocking.
I have one thing too for that.
We just started.
Put that workshop together with that one. So, I circulated this already, but we're looking into EV charging, for the village and, have an appointment next week with a representative for Charge Points to look at sites and come out, and give us some information about that. Had a number of requests from other village residents, and so, you're gonna come? Yes, I'll come. Jason and I are gonna think about that, we'll follow up at the next board meeting. But moving the ball forward a little bit with that.
Yeah, with that charge point, I think we might be able to get some electrical service upgrades.
Yeah.
Included with that charge point.
Yeah, there's a lot of grants available for the make ready work. I serve at NICEAG, provide 85-90% matching. For a lot of that, so there's grant money available, and the representative is said that they are more willing to hold our hand with a lot of that grant writing process, which is good too.
Alrighty, public comment.
Oh, I want to say open mic Friday night also. Open mic Friday night, it's gonna be a great one, please show up, it's gonna be real good. Real good.
So we heard talk about with the rent, long-term rental, if someone, if I decided to rent my house, I'd have to tell you to rent my house and you come in and inspect it.
That's what they, were you at the last meeting, Jim?
No,
Okay. There was some discussion around having a rental registry where somebody would have to have their home inspected every 2 years, including folks that had rentals already, and, we went back.
there's not one house in the village that goes up to code, I don't know if you're gonna.
So that was a heavy discussion about that, and then this proposal was just an attempt at maybe looking at folks that come in and buy houses, but we're on the first yard line of 100 yards. at this
Yeah,
point, so,
I don't even know, how would you know?
right, there's a lot of different things.
I mean, if I decide, I mean, obviously, you know, if I was living there, but,
Sympathetic to what you're saying.
yeah. Okay.
Mr. Mayor? Yes. Thank you. Mayor, I know it's out again, I'm paying, I guess. Just one quick question. It's a number of years ago, our asphalt driveway. Right, and they're really getting terrible from the snowstorm, the equipment at that time. I don't know if it's the village or the contractor, but we expect that all these driveways will fall. Pretty much all back a foot or two, it's gonna have to be keyed and removed and re-asphalt in those areas. Now, we received, all of Victoria Lane have received an email. My request at that time, because I was repeated to me that the village would take care of that. And then 2, 3, 4 years later, it's still sitting there. And I understand the village said, well, you know, it's not our responsibility. Well, if it was sent to us in an email that they were gonna take care of it, it's the village responsibility. And now we have a lot, and they're getting worse and worse, so it's only, we're just asking for some help, because it's a lot of money that they would have to ensue, that they otherwise, at the time of the occurrence, we'd let it go, because we were told, the village
Was
was.
this prior to our accepting the streets? How long ago are you talking?
Oh, my God, 3-4 years ago, in one of the major snowstorms, I don't believe it was a contractor that was now, it was another contractor, but I believe the village did assist with certain tracks, equipment that did go over the edge, and it completely demolished all of them. I took pictures of them, I have pictures of the original ones, and if you look at them now, they're only gotten worse in their spidering.
Would you send those to me, because this.
I most certainly
this
will.
Doesn't ring it about.
Yeah, well, okay, well, I most
Doesn't mean-
certainly will.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we did get an email. Everybody in Victoria Planning got an email that those would be taken care of.
From the
by the
email
village.
from who?
I believe it was the board. Or the mayor at the time.
If you have a copy of that email, if you
Not
can.
anymore.
Yeah. that would be fun. I think what happened was, this happened before, actually, the final paving for the roads. And, the driveways that Amador put in are crap, they really are. And, so when we did the new roads, we cut out about a foot or two into all the driveways to eliminate what we thought was the spiderwing cracking going on. That's about as far as we were gonna go, because the driveways were not, it's not our job, the driveway. So we did, when we paved the streets, we did go up the driveways, especially the ones that had been cracking about a foot or 2 feet, trying to get rid of it. But what happens beyond that is just that the Amador didn't do the right one.
Ben, are you talking about between the sidewalk and the road, or all the way
It's
up?
between the main road curving, the slope
Yeah.
curving, and the first 2-3 feet of the asphalt. Now, Peter is correct. There was some bad asphalt, and they did key at that time. That's why you'll see some key marks on maybe 4 or 5 driveways that they were repaired, right? But this has really got nothing to do with that. It was after a snowstorm that was heavy, and a lot of traffic was put on it.
Our trucks wouldn't be going up onto your driveway.
I don't believe it was trucks, it was equipment with tracks.
I think he's talking about, to interrupt, skid steers with the steel.
Yes.
Yes, see them up there.
Those are
They're not up there.
village does.
No, they were up in the 1 year, and they did a lot of damage.
We don't have the skid steer.
No, the contractor did.
Oh,
You steered us and said, I got an open home. They rip everything up underneath them.
And we were wanting to hold the contract responsible. But once we got notice that the village was getting it repaired. Well, everybody sort of dropped it, and I even brought it up to our board a couple of times to pursue it. But, the thing is there's a lot of them. As I walk around, I'm looking at a lot of people out there. Because they're getting worse, and they don't realize it, that it's gonna be their responsibility right now.
Dig through your archives and
Yeah,
refresh my
I'll do
memory.
my best.
I sent that.
Yeah.
Probably I did.
Yeah. Mine is one.
Any other public comment?
Actually, I just like, I'm sorry. I'm sure everybody's aware of what's going on with Leah's Bakery. If you're not on social media, she is to vacate her building. And she's going to be moving up on top of the hill behind Stewart. There's a strip mall there, I think, where there's a Chinese place. He's gonna utilize 2 of the units up there. It's a structural problem with the building she's in right now that she knew was coming. And she has to pull the trigger on it and kind of relocate. So she's going to be back. She promised to be back. She had a whole piece on social media. So I would just say, hey, let's support her. She had told me she's gonna be hoping to get out of here by Thanksgiving. I don't know if that means everything has to be pushed up to the top of the hill by then. Is that something, I don't know if it's feasible.
Is this a permanent thing or?
It's not a permanent, it's a temporary thing, but it's gonna be repaired. She'll have to, yeah, she's actually going to, some parts of the, up on top of the hill are gonna be permanent. She has a 5-year lease, she's gonna keep, classes and stuff up on top, which will probably work out better for her.
Expanding.
She's expanding. Well, she lists as a new pair of shoes on her old build, so we're really hoping that this definitely works out for her. I can't even imagine, you know, what's going through her mind, and I just think, support of the village, get up there on top of the hill when she does move up there, and support her right now would be great, so. That's it.
I will entertain a motion to enter executive session for proposed acquisition, sale, or lease of real property, or proposed acquisition, et cetera. Wait a second.
Second.
Discussion.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Have a good night.
Thank you, Greg. See you tomorrow.